Okay, hi. You clicked the link in the description, and now you've ended up at this video. So you're either A, a nerd, and you want to learn some things, or B, you have no idea what the hell you're doing. You saw the link in the description, and you went, wowee, I'm gonna go listen to Tom She talk about some wacky stuff for a couple millennia. So welcome in. Today we're going to be going through all of the scripts that I use and have on GitHub, and we're going to go over a few things as well. This video is not going to be as edited, and it's not going to be as, magical and flowy. This is going to be a bit more crazy and wacky. So the first thing that I should probably mention that I did gloss over in the main video is that you may notice that the dev branch that I use is generally quite a bit ahead of main. I do a lot of changing of code and messing around with things, and a lot of that change happens late at night on my off days or stuff like that, and I don't actually get a chance to thoroughly test stuff straight away. So the reason that there's a whole bunch of commits that I don't merge to main straight away is just because I'm constantly changing way too much stuff, and I don't want to be messing up main, if you will. So if you want a functional set of my scripts, then download the code from main. If you want to see what the hell's going on, then in terms of, editing the scripts and whatnot, then definitely check out the commits on dev. There's some cool stuff that happens every once in a while. I added some cool functionality to the Photoshop script the other day. I keep dragging this off and back on, but whatever. If you want to keep a local copy of this on your computer synced up constantly, then you can either download and use this program that I'm using now, which I wasn't in the last video, which is kind of awkward, but this is Visual Studio Code. This is a lot more fancy of a thing. Or you could easily just use the GitHub desktop client, and then what you can do is you can click this download code button, and then you can, I believe, or here you can open straight with GitHub desktop, but then also within things like this, I believe you can also add local repos and whatnot. So to explain it, for this program requires prerequisite other programs, like you need to download Git and all this other stuff. So really, if you want to download a local repo of your own, I recommend just using the normal GitHub client for desktop, and then going through all the steps that it tells you to do through all their websites and stuff on how to locally clone repos, and then just open with GitHub desktop, which will then allow you to do pulls as opposed to a pull, not a pull request. This is different. This is basically, I believe, a way to contribute to the thing, which isn't going to get you where in this. But I believe you can then do pulls, which will then pull from origin, and then if there are any changes, you'll see changes, and then you should be able to do something with that, I believe. I'm 95% sure that's how that works. If it doesn't, Google it or something. I don't know. If you're watching this video, you're probably smart enough to do that. Or you might just have no idea what the fuck's going on, in which case, that's fine too. So let's get cracking, I suppose. Very recently, I don't know if it was in the video when I did it, I added backups to my Adobe layout, my presets, and my keyboard shortcut stuff. So that's all backed up there. So if you wanted to get your own copy of that, that's all there, which is cool. There's now a folder for the icons that the script uses. This wasn't a thing when I made the video, but the scripts now have, two of the scripts now have their own custom icons, which is really cute. Mine's my little Yoshi boy, and then the Resolve one is just the icon for Resolve, which I thought's cute. Sounds is something you guys don't get. That's just the MeWe themes I use for stream. I also added a backup of my Stream Deck profile. I use the Stream Deck XL, so if you don't have one of those, it probably won't be very useful to you. I mean, it probably won't be very useful to you anyway. This is more for me than it is for you guys, but it's there regardless. Now let's get into the scripts. The first one in our list is the Alt Menu Acceleration Disabler. This is from Taryn, from Linus Tech Tips. I mention it on the GitHub in the like README documentation and whatnot, but his videos on AutoHotkey, he has a lot of them, going into how to use multiple keyboards and all this other jazz, is what got me into using AutoHotkey for editing and then using AutoHotkey for a bunch of other stuff. I have to give credit where credit is due. Pog him. This is one of a few scripts that I use from him, and this is to stop Alt menu acceleration, which if you don't know what that is, when you press Alt, you'll see these menus pop up. I assume so this is normally what will happen with Alt menu acceleration. You'll see that the top bar of whatever you're using will highlight things, and then you can press the keys to then find different, like command. It's supposed to let you quickly get places without having to use your mouse, right? But in terms of hotkeys and stuff, it's obviously quite annoying, because if you're trying to press certain hotkeys and you accidentally release the wrong fingers or whatever, you could accidentally menu through things when you don't really want to, and it's a huge pain in the butt. So what this does, basically, is it stops that behavior. So this is saying when you press left Alt, it sends a scan code. Scan codes are kind of hard to explain. It's got to do with the way that computers work and how keyboards send commands to computers. There are certain codes that computers can send that don't really exist anymore, or I guess they exist, but they don't really get used for anything, if that makes sense. So in this case, we're sending that scan code instead of left Alt. That's what this is. When you press left Alt, send that blank scan code, and then it sits here and it waits for left Alt. That's what key wait means. It means it's waiting for you to release that Alt button. And then when you do release it, it sends that blank scan code again. So basically what this is doing is it's wrapping your Alt key in a scan code so that Windows doesn't interpret it as an Alt press. This doesn't stop you from using Alt in hotkeys, which is even better, but it stops that behavior from happening. So obviously that's then doing it again with the right Alt. And then this block here is mine. Firefox kind of has similar behavior, except with the F10 button. For whatever reason, it pulls up that Alt menu as well. So I just disabled that, which is really annoying. Because if I want to use F10 as a hotkey for anything in the future, it would just cause problems, and I don't want that. So that's what that's for. Anyway, moving on. Auto dismiss error is something for Premiere. There's an annoying window dialog box that pops up sometimes when you try to delete keyframes or whatever. It's explained here in this commented text. It'll say, this action will delete existing keyframes. Do you want to continue? And it's just the most useless thing, because it basically treats you like a child, It's like, yes, I very specifically pressed the delete key. Of course, I want to delete things. It's dumb. So basically, this is just a little script that waits for that warning box and then just sends enter straight away so that it gets dismissed. F-key auto launch is initially from Taran. This isn't exactly a script per se that he gives you, but there's code in some of his scripts that I took and made into my own F-key script, if that makes sense. So basically, what this is doing is a bunch of fancy things to do other fancy things. Basically, what's happening here is it is either opening programs, or if that program is open, it will swap to that program. And then if you have multiple tabs of the same program open, it will cycle between them. So the easiest way I can explain that here is if I close my Explorer window and then I press F1, it will open the Explorer window. But if I open multiple Explorer windows, you'll see when I press F1, it tabs through them all. This is incredible. I'm sure anybody that's even slightly a power user has probably been in scenarios where you've got a bunch of Explorer windows open, you're messing around with multiple programs. One button to cycle between things to grab the right Explorer window that you need at that given time is just, I don't know, it's a nice little perk of life, I guess. And then I have one for Premiere on F2. F3 is Firefox. Personally, I don't really use this one a whole lot because with the way that I use Windows anyway, I generally have Firefox on either my second or third monitor, I guess. Like, it basically is just always in the same spot, so, like, this isn't super useful for me, I guess, but I kind of just have it there anyway. It is what it is. There's also functionality where if you press Alt and then the button for Firefox, you can swap between different Firefox windows. Sometimes it can kind of be a bit weird. So I don't really use this functionality, but the recurring tab press when it comes to Firefox here is basically when you press that F3 button again, it will Alt tab for you, right? I think my muscle memory on this one is still kind of getting the better of me. I don't really use F3 to tab through Firefox. I still control tab. That's just kind of the way I've always done it, and I guess because I have these on F keys, it is easier for me to just press Control Tab. But I believe Taran has these linked to, like, other keyboards and stuff that are, like, right near his left hand, so it probably might be easier to just tap them than it would be to Control Tab. I'm not really sure, but yeah. Anyway, that's that. I also have this program, VSD code, set to F7. It can be a bit weird sometimes. If you press it again... apparently it opens... Oh, right. Okay. Is that because... diagnosing things? No. No. So this I need to fix. This is why it's not working, because I'm a goose. This is not a cabinet class. That is a Chrome widget win_1 class. If I refresh this now and I press F7 again, it shouldn't do that. But these shouldn't be cabinet classes. All right, I had to walk away there for a second because of how much of an idiot I was being. I'm not actually relaunching this script. I'm a goose. That's okay. So, there we go. This is now acting the way it's supposed to act, which is because this program and GitHub are made in, I guess, the same kind of class within Windows. Spamming F7 will eventually open GitHub, and I imagine if I did the same thing with GitHub, GitHub maybe has way too many. I guess it won't let me do that. But anyway, that's irrelevant to the point. The point is, how the heck does this work, Tom? So in its basic form, what it's saying here is we'll use either of these as an example. It doesn't really matter all too much. It's saying if GitHub, for example, doesn't exist, like it's not open at all on the system, run GitHub. And then what it does is it adds it to a group, and then you can just call the group whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. I've just changed all of these to their own individual one. And then it's saying to add the class to that group. So that's why when I spam F7, GitHub will tab through because it is the same class. Then it's saying if when active GitHub, so if GitHub is active, we went over this in the last video, active just means, you know, you're interacting with it, for example, right? Like it's the active window. Then it's saying group activate and then your group. And then R is just another option within things like group activate. It probably means relative. Let me just pull up the documentation. Okay, I guess it doesn't really have a name, but R in this case just means the newest window, or the one most recently active. So that's basically saying it'll activate the one that you were just in. So in the case of File Explorer, if I was interacting with this window last and then I move away and then I press F1 again, it's gonna open up that activated window, which is great. That makes things so much better in it, like for the reason that we use this script. So that's cool. Then it's saying otherwise, simply activate it. I don't know 100% why we need this this else statement, but I assume maybe if it's not there, sometimes a window won't activate. So there you go. There's that. You can just add anything you want, really. All you would need is to copy this code. For things like Firefox, it gets a bit more complicated. For things like Premiere, it gets a bit weird sometimes. But you would basically just copy this, change the F key, let's say F10. You can just change this line to whatever. Then you need to make sure that you change this information, which again you get with Windows Spy. You'll see in this case, this exe is this line here. So we would change this one, for example, to code exe. Then you would change the run path, and then you would change this to a new group. Like it can be anything. You could just change it to whatever the fuck you wanted. Then update the class information, change this exe information, change this to be the same as this, and then once again, change this exe information. And then that's pretty much it. It should work as soon as you do that, more or less, and then you'll be good to go. But after that, let's move on to my script, the one that I use every single day. So this whole thing is heavily catered towards me. If you run this script out of the box, more often than not, most of the stuff in here is not going to work. That's because a lot of stuff relies on pixel coordinates. It requires programs, just a whole bunch of stuff. So pixel coordinates specifically will mess you up the most because my desktop layout is probably very different than you are likely to have your desktop layout, because my desktop layout looks like this. 1440p screen, all 1080p screens. So things are messy. Be very careful. Read comments. That's what they're there for. But otherwise, let's go through this. Single instance force just makes it so that when you reload the script, it doesn't ask you if you want to reopen it, which is just good. I only want one instance of the script open. Set working directory is just saying that the script's working directory is the directory that it opens from. Set numlock state and set caps lock state to on and off respectively, just to say that my numlock will always be set to on, so even if I press it right now, it doesn't really do anything. I don't use the other functionality of my numlock. Auto hotkey can tell the difference between it being on and off, so if you want to attach scripts to your numpad, using the numlock can be a great way to have a second layer built in. I just personally don't need that at the moment, so it just makes more sense for me to keep it always on. Because I do some data entry stuff in Excel sometimes, and I really hate when the numlock has just randomly turned itself into, the off position for whatever reason. And then caps lock is the same, just like any normal functioning human being on this planet. I never actually use the caps lock button, because who does that? This line, by the way, that turns the caps lock off doesn't stop you from using caps lock in hotkeys. I don't use any currently, but it's good to know that Windows and auto hotkey can still see when you press the button, even if you define it as always off, which is cool. Then we just have a line here for default mouse speed as 0. This is just so that if I don't define it in any scripts, it will just default to 0. 0 is the fastest option for this specific, line, if you will. Some have -1, so it's not always 0, but for mouse speed, 0 is the fastest. And then this group of code here is just for the icon. So this just sets the icon for the script. If you want to change that, just change where you have the icon file, which is in that icon folder, and then that should work. Then we just have some information about me, about the script, just giving credit, just adding credit, I guess, should be the proper way to word that. And then there's just information about how Taran got me into it, how the script works, programs that you can use, etc., etc. Most of this information is on the GitHub page, but this is just here as well as a second in your face. Hi, this is the thing. This is how that works. All right, we'll start with the Windows, scripts that I use. This is a recently added one. This is Control W. This literally just warps my mouse over to that very far monitor that you saw, the vertical one, because that's where I usually keep Discord, and it's really annoying to move my mouse all the way over there, so I just added a script to warp my mouse over. God, that's so lazy, but okay. Then we have the next one, which is just Control-Shift-A, which just opens up my script directory. If you want to know the very specific, like, hotkey modifiers and whatnot, honestly, if you ever need anything for auto hotkey, literally just Google search it, right? AHK hotkey. The documentation for like auto hotkey is very thorough and very helpful. So this will tell you everything. So an exclamation mark is Alt, an up arrow is Control, a plus is Shift, etc., 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 etc. Then we just have some commented out stuff because I used to use Notepad++, but I don't anymore. So now when I press Alt-A, this is the awkward part of this thing, I need to add a line where if it's already active, it doesn't do anything, but, which would be here, actually, right? Because if it exists, activate it, else, I guess I could just say sleep, right? Oh, well, I need to reload before that will work. Oh, I need to sleep 100. There we go. So now if I press Alt-A, okay, I see why this is doing this. Is because right off the bat it runs it, which is really weird. I guess I could put this line here instead. And then if I reload this, yeah. So now if I press Alt-A, it will either activate. So if I minimize this, Alt-A will activate. But if I close and then press Alt-A, it should open. Yeah, okay, cool. That's good. So because I use Visual Studio Code, I just have my entire directory opened up so I don't have to run the script specifically. But the old script that I used was to run, it was this one here. It was to run Notepad++ and then this script directly, which was cool, but because I changed programs, things got moved around. But there you go. So we just problem solved something in this recording. Helpful. Then Alt-R is what you were just seeing me do, which is to reload this script. The reason I'm clicking up here is because if I press it within this program, Alt-R doesn't do anything, obviously, because it's not a hotkey within this program. So I have to click off, and then it will reload the entire script. So it's just saying, well, reload. And then there's also some more, which is sleep for 1 second. And then it's saying, you know, if successful, the reload will close this instance during the sleep, so the line below will never be reached. But then basically what happens is if there's a problem and the script can't reload, it'll pop up with a message box to then edit things. This, I should do what I did above by doing this. Oh, and here you go, right here. I don't know why it broke, but there you go. So this is what happens if it can't reload. It'll say script cannot be reloaded. Would you like to open it for editing? If I press yes, it'll open another thing because the code didn't update. And then auto hotkey will give you a issue. And here you go. It's saying the parameter is invalid. So I think I would have to do this. No, okay. Is that, how, can I define it as like a function? Else with no matching if. Interesting. Messing end function. Ah, I guess that needs to be on a separate line. Oh, there you go. Okay. So if I break this now, and then I press yes, it works. So if I close this and press Alt-R, and I press yes, wow, would you look at that? Man, we're fixing things live on stream. Well, this isn't a stream. Live in this video recording. There you go. So we just created a function to do what we needed to do. So basically what's happening, if you're not following, is if it can't reload the script, then it prompts you with the message box saying, you know, if the stream could not be loaded, would you like to open it for editing? And then it's linking an action to the yes button. And that action is the function that we just created that says basically the same thing as the reload. Not the reload, the Alt-A script that we just went through, right? If this program exists, activate it. If not, run it. And there you go. That's cool. Control-Shift-D here is just making Discord on my vertical monitor taller, because when I stream, I have it shorter so it doesn't take up the whole screen. So that's just expanding it out so I can read things. I can't really show that in this view. And then F22 opens my Pokemon music playlist, so I launch that with a Stream Deck. And then if I press it, there you go. So what's happening here is it is running a playlist that I have, and then it's waiting for VLC to open, and then once it does open, it activates it. Then it moves it to the top corner. The move wasn't working for a while, which was really weird. It seems to be working again. I don't know, it's weird. Anyway, so it moves it into that top right corner as a small window. And then these inputs here, Shift A, Shift A, Shift A, Shift A, blah, 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 is going through the settings in VLC to move it to my music slider on my Go XLR. It seems to be a bit weird in the sense that if I close it and reopen it, I guess it remembers where it was instead of resetting. I don't know. VLC is weird sometimes. Is there an option in VLC to like hotkey a certain audio device? It doesn't seem so. No. Okay. Ideally, you could just set the default to the track that you would need, and then you wouldn't have to do that. But I have to set it to the sample track because of the MeWe theme channel redemption that I have on my channel. The program that my brother uses just calls VLC basically via the command line. So this needs to be set to that, otherwise Stream can't hear it. And I can't set it to the music option because the music option I have on stream is generally very low. It's a pain, but yeah. So that script generally works at least once. And then after that, things obviously get a bit messy, but that's just VLC. There's not really a whole lot I can do about that. I guess as an alternative, what I could do is go through the Alt menu, and then get to here, and then tab down a certain amount of times and hit enter. That might be a way I go forward, but usually when I stream on Bocce, I only really need to press this once. So it's not really an issue at the moment, but I should add, if I want to change this in the future, go through the Alt Excel menu to tab to the right audio device instead. Let's move on. Next up is Control Space, which is, this is a fun one. Have you ever been using the calculator, for example, say in Excel, and you're tippity-tappy typing away, and then you click on the program and your calculator's gone, right? Well, press Control Space. Now, I can do whatever the heck I want, and my calculator window doesn't go away. How fun is that? So basically, this is just setting the window to be always on top. And then -1 here is saying it will toggle every time I press it. And then A just means the current active window. So if I click Control Space again, it will now hide. I really like that one. And then this one, Numpad Divide, is just running Excel elevated. So it will prompt you to run it as administrator. I probably don't need it as admin anymore. The only reason I needed it was because this script is in program files, and program files in Windows requires you to have admin privileges to change stuff, but I've since changed this folder specifically so it has those permissions. So I could probably get rid of this and everything should be fine. So if I change this and I save, okay, it actually does let me. So yeah, I guess we're just updating things as we go along. Then this next script, Control-Shift-C, basically just runs a Google search of any highlighted text. So if I press Control-Shift-C, a Windows tab has just searched for Control-Shift-T. So that's just saying run, and then it runs this URL, and then with the clipboard. And that's it. That's pretty simple. All right. So next up, we have the entire stream thing that we went through in the last video. Don't need to go over that again. Some things have changed since the last video, but nothing too crazy. The logic here at the end has gotten a bit better. I haven't tested this yet, though. That's going to be for tomorrow. So we'll see if this stays the same. I should probably also mention, now that we're a little bit into this, chances are all of this, well, not all of this stuff, but some of this stuff I'm running you through right now could be changed by the time you watch this. Or there could be stuff added, or there could be stuff removed. This is just a snapshot of how it looks on the 27th of the 7th, 2021, I guess, at 6:23 p.m. currently. Chances are, by the time this video goes up, there will be a lot more than 130 whatever commits that there were to the dev channel. I imagine there will be a lot more. So here you go. We're at 138 at the moment. There's going to be one at the end of this video because I've changed a whole bunch of stuff. So we'll see how that goes, I suppose. But anyway, let's move on. F13 here, which I just call from a Stream Deck, is a hotkey I've added to rerun one of the programs that my brother gave me for my Wii channel redemption thing. This is just in case during the stream setup process, Docker didn't open in time and this program canceled out of itself. This is just me opening it up again, waiting for it to open, and then sending an input through that it needs. And that's it. That's nothing too complicated. This F17 is just what AutoHotkey is listening out for from Leorin board, which is basically just when somebody redeems the channel point in my channel, Leorin board will press F17, you know, it'll simulate an F17 press, and then I'm just running this program, and then that's it. So that's what that's there for. I should probably comment this. Leorin board sends F17 when channel point reward comes through. This program then plays the sound. Then this is a recent addition that I added after I believe the last video was recorded, which is a script to just close everything that I use for stream. Nothing really too complicated. It's just closing a whole bunch of programs. That's about it, really. Then moving on, F16 is the hotkey that I have linked to opening up the portable instance of OBS that I use for my bocce streams. So it'll wait for it to open, and then once it does open, it'll wait again, because otherwise OBS will crash. And then for whatever reason, OBS, once you install the Stream Elements plugin thing, doesn't let you send hotkeys to it unless you click on it the first time. It's really stupid. It was so weird because it used to work and then it just stopped working. I don't know. It's odd. So this will just then move the mouse, click on it, go through the profile menus, tab to the right profile, and then just move my mouse back to where it's supposed to be. So yeah, I should probably go through these. Setting the coordinate modes will, I believe I explained it in the last video, it'll set the coordinates for either Windows screen or client. Since the last video, I know what client is. Client is just your screen, not including any OS stuff like the dock. So the point of client is so that pixel coordinates should line up across different OSs, I guess. I guess that's the point of it. I checked up on it the other day. Then anytime you want to move the mouse and you don't want the user to mess with anything, you send through a block input for send and mouse, and then block input for mouse move, and then block input you turn on. So this is saying that you're not allowed to move the mouse, and then these two, I believe, saying you can't type stuff and it won't do anything. Then mouse get pause is getting your mouse's pixel coordinates and linking them to these two variables. I believe you can just make this whatever you want and then just change it down here and it should work fine. Then it's moving the mouse to this very specific coordinate. it's clicking, and then it's going through the alt menu like I explained before, blah, blah, blah. Then it's moving it back to those stored coordinates, and it's turning off the blocked input. If you're going to make your own mouse hotkeys or scripts or whatever, and you do these ones, please, 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 please make sure you add these before you add a return and run the script. Otherwise, you will not be able to move your mouse. And if you cannot tab back or find a way to get into, the task manager, which just crashed on me, apparently. Hello? If you can't find a way to get to task manager, if you can't find a way to tab into... God, I hate that functionality in Windows. If you can't find a way to tab into Task Manager to close the script or whatever, you will basically be forced to reset your computer before you get mouse controls back. So keep that in mind. Please be careful with that. But then after that, our next script is defined as an if when exists OBS. So this is saying if OBS exists, this can happen. Control Shift R is something that I have linked to a button on my Stream Deck, which is then saying if OBS exists, which this is redundant. I shouldn't have this. This doesn't make any sense. I've just copy pasted this code and I shouldn't have. This is really dumb. It can only happen if OBS exists. So why am I... Okay, anyway. It's activating OBS and then it's sending through 2 hotkeys to save replay buffers, and then that's it. So the reason I don't do that with the Stream Deck is because the Stream Deck has delay, but then not only that, I just have other stuff linked to the Stream Deck. Like anytime I save clips or whatever, it creates a marker on my stream, just so that if one of the clips dies, because I've had a couple clips before just not save properly and go corrupt on me. It doesn't happen often, not often enough to be a super big problem, but I just have it put in as a fail safe to create a marker in case, especially now that I'm a partner and I stream in 1080p. The quality of me pulling something off of stream isn't god awful. It's not incredible, but definitely better than when I was 720p streaming. But anyway, that's all of stream stuff. Now we're into Photoshop. This is obviously just saying if Photoshop is active, all this can happen. I have Control-Shift-P, so I use this during the save process. When you go to save something in Photoshop, like you want to save it as a PNG or whatever, the default is obviously a PSD, which is the Photoshop file, and manually tabbing through and changing it every single time is really annoying. So I created a script where I just press Control-Shift-P, and then it will tab through the menu for me. I'm very lazy, but it's just really annoying because PNG is the 17th option down. So sometimes you'll I'll try and grab it and you'll click it and then you'll miss it by 1 and it's just really annoying. And then this was added the other day when I was trying to use the pen tool to basically rotoscope out a picture of me for the thumbnail of the main video. And when you're super zoomed in like that, it can be really annoying to swap to the hand tool, drag across, and then go back to the pen tool, which is on P. So I just created a script that's very similar to the dragging script that I use in Premiere, where it will just this is probably redundant, but I just copied the code from the other script, so it's just there. This will send the H button, which is for the hand tool, and then it'll press down for me, and then it'll wait for the mouse button that I have pressed, and then once I release that button, it will then send the left button up, and then press P for the pen tool. So yeah, that's real cool. Then we're into Premiere. This is where most of the stuff is. I don't remember if I said it in the main video, but I'll say it again here. If when actives and if when not actives and stuff like that will continue to work until it finds another one further down the script. So basically, anything under this line will work for Photoshop only until it hits Premiere, and then anything under this will work until it hits something else, etc., etc. That's why I have all the Windows stuff at the top, because it doesn't need anything. I just have it set to if Premiere isn't active, all of this other stuff will work. So let's get back down to Premiere. This first script is a script that I have to take my voice audio channel that I will have in Premiere. The whole track I'll usually highlight, and then what this does is it will send it to Adobe Audition. When you right click on audio, there's usually an option there that will say send this to audio to Adobe Audition or whatever, right? We're doing that. So I'll highlight the whole track, and then I will press this button on my Stream Deck. Sorry, usually it is linked to F11, so I could just press it, but I don't remember that. I just have it on my Stream Deck, and then what it's doing is it's right clicking, and then it's tabbing down the right click menu. It's clicking that, and then that's what this is, and then it's hitting enter, and then it's going through and it's just waiting for Audition to open, and then once it does, it will maximize it. This is because sometimes Adobe Audition doesn't open maximized. It's really weird. I never run it in windowed mode, but sometimes it just opens and it's dumb. Then we sleep for 4 seconds because Adobe Audition is the slowest program that I've ever encountered in my life. Then we're just defining our coordinate mode as screen, and then we're blocking our inputs, we're getting our position, and then we're just doing a whole bunch of inputs to add a limiter preset that I use, and then it will hit the apply button within Adobe Audition, and then after that it goes through the Alt acceleration menu to press a normalize button, which only exists in the menus. I don't know why. There's no preset, there's no effect that you can use to normalize audio that I know of. You have to go through the it's so dumb. But anyway, after it's done all that, my mouse will move back to its normal coordinates. The inputs will come off. It'll minimize Audition, and it will reactivate Premiere. That's just a nice little quality of life thing there. Then we go into a subsection of the Premiere scripts, which is hold and drag. So these are all the scripts that I showed off in the main video that are linked to the F keys, the scale, the move on X, Y, the rotation, etc., etc. They all pretty much do the same thing, so I can just explain one and it will more or less explain all of them, but it's not too difficult, but it adds a lot of functionality, which is really cool. So it starts off by basically just defining our coordinates, blocking our inputs, getting our position, and then it moves the mouse to the, in this case, I believe scale. Yep, it hovers over the scale option. It just waits a second so that the mouse can 100% be in the right spot. Well, this isn't a second, this is 100 milliseconds, which is 0.1 of a second. I should be specific here. Also, I should probably reiterate, I just remembered this sleep 100 isn't here to make sure the mouse moves in time. The mouse will be there. It's super fast. It's fine. The reason this is here is so that it gives me time to either press or hold. If I don't have this here, then I can't possibly execute this function of the script, because by the time I've released the key, it's already tried to do all this other stuff, because it's faster than I can physically press the key. So that sleep 100 milliseconds is specifically there so that this functionality can exist. And then it sends a click down, and then what it does is it gets key state. This is just the variable that I have defined. This could be anything, I believe. And then it's getting the key state of F1. And then P is a parameter for, I think, it wants to get the state of the physical key itself, I believe, which is very specific. And it's very important. If I didn't have this P here, the script wouldn't actually work. So then it's saying if this function found that the key is up, which basically means that I've just pressed it. I'm not holding it anymore. So if I've pressed it, then it does this, which is to just click instead and then send through 100 so that the scale resets back, and then it will hit enter, and then that's it. And then I have commented out here that you could just move the mouse and press the reset arrow instead, but I just do it this way because it doesn't really matter all that much. And then there you go. But then it's basically, if this doesn't happen, it will just move through to this, and this it will then turn the blocked inputs off because I obviously have to move my mouse around. And then it's just saying key wait for F1, so I can just do whatever until I let go of F1. And then as soon as I let go of F1, it will move to the next line, which is to send a click up. And then it will move my mouse back to its original position, and the function will end, or the script will end. They basically all do this. The only difference would be the F4, which would be slightly different because of the way that it has to move the mouse to the window so that I can drag it around. But yeah, it's not too much different. There's just a couple other lines added. Basically, if you care all that much, there are comments to explain it, and there we go. So they're all basically the same. We'll move on. The numpad scripts I explained in the previous video, the main video, but basically these are, at least these first three are to zoom in to my two set punch-ins for highlight videos, and then numpad 9 is just to reset, basically just doing what we've already explained. It will send a Control-Shift-9, which I believe is to highlight the timeline, to then, make sure that when I press Control F5, which is to change the color of the track, it will do that. If this isn't here, I believe sometimes the timeline, will drop out of focus, and then it won't actually do that. Because if I'm clicked on another window and then I press the hotkey, the rest of the hotkey will work, but the color won't actually change. So that line is important for that. Then it's just defining coordinates, it's blocking inputs, getting the mouse chords, moving the mouse to the motion tab. Oh, where is this moving to? No, this is just moving to, this is a new line. I've only recently added these two. This is just moving to like the top of the effects section. Then it's inputting wheel up 30. To basically make sure that even if I'm working on effects lower down and I'm scrolled, it will scroll all the way back up to the top so that the script will still work and it won't break anything. Then it will move and click on the motion tab. Or I guess here it's not. No, it is. Yeah, it's moving to the motion tab. It's pressing a shuttle stop. This doesn't really need to be here. I explained it here. I don't know why this one is still here. I removed it from all the other ones, but I just haven't deleted it yet because I don't want to break anything. And then it's clicking on the motion tab, and then it's just tabbing through the menus pretty much and inputting the specific values that I need, and then pressing enter, and then moving my mouse back, and then giving my inputs back, and there you go. And then all of this happens in, blink of an eye pretty much. So then numpad 8 is the same. The values are just different. These values are just different. And then numpad 9 is just a bit more straightforward, except for this one, I couldn't add the wheel up. I was having troubles with it, which is explained here. For whatever reason, if I add the wheel up, even if it's just a little amount, if I do this, for whatever reason, when I try to click, you have to delay it by like a second, otherwise it doesn't actually click. I couldn't figure out why. I tried to troubleshoot it for like an hour, but for whatever reason, if I have those wheel ups beforehand, the click just has to be hella delayed. Yeah, I don't know. But it's basically just doing the same thing, except instead of having to do any tabbing nonsense, it just moves to the reset arrow and just presses that and then moves on. I would like to have the wheel ups, but what can you do? Then we just have those audio scripts that I explained in the main video. I actually have 3. I don't know if that was super apparent in the main video, but I have one to reduce gain by 2 dB, boost gain by 2 dB, and then boost gain by 6 dB. These drag and drop effect presets are all of the scripts that I have to apply presets that I have set within Premiere to the track that I'm hovering over. So if I have a cut preset or a Gaussian blur preset, that's where these are defined. These are really cool. So basically I'll hover over the track that I want to have an effect put on it pretty much, and then it will block my inputs, send Control-Shift-7, which highlights the effects window, which is where we're about to go. It'll send a Control-B, which is to select the find box so that you can start typing. Then it will send a Control-A delete, so Control-All it'll select all the text and delete it. Then it will send Gaussian Blur 20, which is what I have the preset set to, which needs to be in a certain folder in the presets folder so that it doesn't get lost and put in a different place. It's very important. Then I'm defining chords. I'm moving to a very specific spot. I believe this is the magnifying glass, which is really important. And then it's moving the mouse relative to that position. This probably isn't super necessary, and I imagine it would likely always end up in the same pixel coordinate anyway, but maybe because the reason it's written like this is because Taran had it written like this, and there was probably a reason behind it. Maybe Premiere's like preset folder structure might change at some point and break things. I'm not entirely sure, but anyway, this R is just saying to move relative, so it's basically moving 40 pixels to the right and then 68 pixels down relative to this pixel coordinate, which is cool. Then it will click down to grab that preset, and then it will move the mouse back to the original position, which is the track that I was hovering over, and then it'll let go, so the preset will be applied, and then I get my inputs back, and then that's it. This is a really cool script. I actually really enjoy these ones. They all pretty much do the same thing. They're all just copy-pastes of each other. But yeah. I also have one for a text layer. This is one that I'm labbing with at the moment, because it's kind of funky, but I ran into a similar problem as the mouse up that the wheel up that I explained above. If anybody's watching this and they have any idea why this happens, please tell me. I would love to know. But basically what I'll do is I'll create a new text layer by pressing Control-T in Premiere, and then once I have that selected, I have a preset set for the font that I use and it to just be like centered in the screen, because sometimes when you create text layers in Premiere, one, they're just not that great of a font, and two, they can just sometimes like open up in the most random places, sometimes almost off screen as well. Like, it's really obnoxious because you have to like mess a whole bunch around with it before you can even start to type text. But anyway, so it's just doing the same as before. It's going to the search box. It's typing in my preset. Then what it's doing is, first, what it does is the default text layer that gets created in the effects control panel, I click to hide it, because when you drag a preset onto a text layer, it creates a new text layer instead of just overriding the one that you have, which I guess makes sense, but is kind of annoying in my case. So it will wheel up, because this is very important, because sometimes it will automatically wheel down, which is really stupid. So I need to have this wheel up here, and then it will move and it'll press the eye icon for the original. It will hide it. So then this is what the sleep is here for, because if I don't give it half a second before trying to hide the text layer, it doesn't click. I don't know if it's Premiere. I don't know if it's auto hotkey. I honestly don't know. And then it will click it and it will hide it, and then it will just do the rest of the commanders up here. It will grab it, it will drag it over, etc., etc. Then we have some scale adjustments. These I can either launch by pressing the keyboard shortcut, or I have buttons on my Stream Deck for. Basically just moving the mouse to the scale adjustment option, clicking it, inputting a new value, hitting enter, returning my mouse to its normal position. Nothing too fancy, just a little bit handy. Then we get into my mouse scripts, which are really fun. My mouse is one of those mice that the wheel can nudge left and right, which is really cool because auto hotkey can actually see that. So wheel right, I have to shift down, which within Premiere, I have set to go to next edit point on any track. So if I want to move to the next like video in the timeline, for example, I just nudge my mouse over and that works like that. It's really cool. Then my mouse also has a little button by my thumb, which unfortunately auto hotkey cannot see. It's not one of the default two that Windows can actually hook into. So I actually just have my mouse through Logitech software to always spit out F14 on this button. So anytime I press it, that's what this does. I used to have it so that it would only do it when Premiere is active in here. You can do it by assigning it to a certain program, but these programs aren't super great at doing that. They're not anywhere near as efficient as auto hotkey, which is, it's basically always on point. These sometimes need you to tab out, tab back in before they'll really like understand that you're using that program, they're really annoying. So I just have it always spit out F14, because F14 is just a button that really no other program is gonna use for anything, so it's not gonna break anything. And then I have that set to another hotkey within Premiere to nudge the clip selection down. I could just I could remove this entire line and just make Premiere's keyboard shortcut as F14. I don't know. I don't know why I have this. This is really redundant. I should change that. All right, so then we have my other mouse button that I showed in the other video, which will let me scroll along the timeline by using the hand tool. Don't need to go into that because I already explained it. Then I have a bunch of macros to change the speed of a track. These are extremely simple, as you can see. I launched these via a Stream Deck because I just have them all laid out. So basically, for each individual one, I don't know why this one has a space there. That's really annoying. It's just sending Control D, and then that opens the speed menu within Premiere. That's what I have it set to. Then it's typing the speed and then hitting enter. And then that's it. That's all it needs. And then that's it. That's all for Premiere. But something that didn't exist when I made the last video that exists now is a script where I have ported over some of the functionality into Resolve. So this is really cool. So if any of you guys want to use Resolve, because it's free and pretty cool, but you still want some of the functionality in my scripts, this now exists. Actually, I think now in the edit, the main video, this did exist. Originally, when I recorded it, it didn't, but I had to go back and record something else, which I think now I explained. Okay, it did. So that's cool. So I explained some of the functionality in here. All of the, well, okay, not all of the code, but most of the code is pretty much exactly the same as I just explained in my main scripts. Obviously, the pixel coordinates are going to be different. But one thing that I've added since that last video, actually two things I've added. One is a drag and drop preset thing similar to Premiere, and another is sort of a like scrolling along the timeline thing similar to the Premiere right click thing. It's not as great because Resolve doesn't actually have a hotkey to move the playhead to the cursor. A bunch of people have been asking for it for ages, like years, and Resolve just refuses to make it a thing. But if I just drag this clip in, basically what it's doing, it's pretty close to like the same level of functionality. It's still really fast, which is cool. But basically what it's doing is when I press a button that I have as one of my mouse buttons, don't set this one to your right click, okay? There is no functionality to tell between this color and the color of anything else. I'm not going to code that in because I don't even know how most of that code works in the right-click script, okay? This is a poor man's version of doing it. But basically what it's doing is when I press the mouse button that I have, it's warping the mouse to up here, clicking, warping the mouse back to where you were, and then letting you do whatever, and then when you let go of the button, it's just letting go. So that's what lets me do this. And because AutoHotkey moves the mouse in like a split second, you barely notice it. If you're trying to move and you click at the same time, it might halt you for like a split second, but really it's not super noticeable. Like you can honestly barely even see the mouse warp. It's like a frame. But yeah, so this is really cool. This didn't exist when I made the main video, but it exists now. And that code is here. It's very simple. It's just blocking inputs, defining the coordinates, getting the position, moving along the y-axis only so that it doesn't have to move that far to that lined section that I showed you. And then, as I said, clicking down, moving the mouse back, giving you inputs back, then waiting. And then once you let go, letting go of the click and then giving you your inputs back. These don't need to be here. I should get rid of that, which it does. Yep. Okay, so that extra letting go of things was dumb. But there you go. That's cool. And then also I've ported over some of the preset functionality. So for this next one to work, this menu has to be open, which you can get to by clicking up here, the effects library, and then having a favorite set. Because The search functionality is cool, but if I click this twice, you'll see it goes away. There might be a keyboard shortcut to search. I don't know, though. There's a keyboard shortcut thing for the... Oh, that's media... Oh, no, there's one for the media pool. There's one for media pool, but there's not one for the effects library. You can't set any keyboard shortcuts for the effects library. So, cool. Okay, there you go. That's useless. Thanks. If there was a keyboard shortcut to, you know, open up this, that'd be great, but I guess not. But basically, when I press Alt-G, you'll see it does the same thing. Oh, that's because this is not at all what I want to be favorited. What the heck is this? Resolve? Question mark? This is supposed to be Gaussian blur. Interesting, I guess? I literally can't remove it from my... Okay. Good program. Anyway, there we go. Alt-G. It drags it back and adds it to the video. You may notice that the mouse here is moving quite slow on the return. That is on purpose. For whatever reason, Resolve, if I drag this back instantly, like with mouse speed 0, it won't add the effect to the video. For whatever reason, it just doesn't see that. So you'll see here, as soon as I get to that part of the script before the return, I set the mouse default speed to 2 instead, which is slightly more realistic of like a person, if you will. And then it's just doing the same thing as the main script. It'll just drag it back and then let go. And then that's what we have so far. So this is probably my favorite thing for you Resolve gamers out there. I definitely recommend giving this one a whirl if you have back and forward mouse buttons, if you will, on your mouse. I just have this linked to my back one at the moment because I have my front one set to this, which just replaces the middle click, because you can just use middle click, which is what I'm doing right now to scroll. But pressing in the middle click requires a lot of force, so just pressing that mouse button right by your thumb is quite a lot easier. But yeah, I realistically won't be going out of my way to look for things to add to Resolve because I don't use this program. But anytime I add anything new to Premiere, I'll boot it back up and I'll see if I can port anything over. So it's definitely recommended that you check back every couple months to see if there have been any additions. Maybe one day Resolve will add a keyboard hotkey to do cool stuff. But till then, this is what we have to deal with. This heckin' broken program. I guarantee before I even finish editing this video and rendering it, there's going to be changes and additions. So once again, if there's more than 139 commits to the dev channel, you know for a fact that something has changed, which very well just could be commenting or fixing up lines of redundant code, but you never know. Maybe I'll slide something new in there. But that's it. Thanks for watching, I guess. I hope this helps. If you have any more questions, chuck them in the comments, I suppose, or tweet me or something. It's probably the best way to get my attention, maybe. Or join the Discord and ask me there. That could work too. There you go. There's a plug, Tom. All the links that you might need, including links to all of Taryn's videos and GitHub, will be in the description. And yeah, okay, bye.